Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. And the most important updates are coming from Robotyne. The Ukrainian forces continue their offensive operation. They're moving to the south, trying to develop their positions between the fields, between the settlements like Novopokrovka, Verbova and Robotyne. For these purposes, the Ukrainians try to use a very small teams in 2-3 soldiers, and this reduce the risks of being attacked by the Russian forces, because basically, according to the Russian logic, 2-3 soldiers is not a very tasty and interesting target. And that allowed the Ukrainians to develop their positions further to the south. The Russians later realized the situation and started bombing and attacking the Ukrainian positions, even if there are just 1 or 2 soldiers. And basically we got the first video confirmations of Russian positions that located very south to the in direction of Novopokrovka and Verbova. And basically, as a result of Ukrainian offensive operation, they managed to develop their bridgehead and capture additional positions on the south and the east, and on the east of Robotyne and on the west of Verbova. The Russians from their side tried to do all the best to slow down the Ukrainian forces. On this video we can see how the Russian tank from hidden position was attacking the Ukrainian infantry, the Ukrainian forces who were heading to the south. As a result of those attacks, a few ammo depots and Ukrainian positions were destroyed. A little bit to the north, the Russians using the FEP drone tried to attack another Ukrainian team in 1 or 2-3 soldiers who were heading to the south as the reinforcements to the previous waves of Ukrainian attacks. So as you can see, as a result of usage of that tactics, the Ukrainians managed to develop their positions. Later, I believe we're going to see more forces, even armored vehicles, who will be as a part of reinforcement, who will go to the south with the purpose to start offensive operation in the direction of Novopokrovka. But before the Ukrainians involve armored vehicles in any attack, they need to secure the territory with the infantry, and they need to establish edge positions on the edge line, on the edge fortifications. When talking about Robotyne itself, during the previous night we got a lot of updates that the Russians launched counter-offensive operation in the northern part, in the direction of the northern part of the settlement. There were updates from some Russian military experts, but we yet haven't received any video confirmation that the Russians managed to took off the flag on the southern part of the settlement. And as I understand, if the Russians were in the central part anyway, they would already took off the flag, but yet we haven't received this video confirmation. So as I understand, the Ukrainians still control the central part, and the Russians still don't have access to this area. The Russians continue attacking and bombing the Ukrainian supply roads that goes from the north, from Orechov in direction of Robotyne. On this video we see how the Ukrainians were trying to redeploy and to get some reinforcements to the settlement. The Russians established 100% control over the road, and as a result of artillery strikes, few armored vehicles were destroyed, and then the Russians were bombing and attacking the Ukrainian artillery. When talking about the northern part of the fields, today we got also a lot of videos from this bridgehead. The Ukrainian sources published the first evidence of destroyed or damaged striker in this area. Basically, striker couldn't bypass the trenches and stuck between the trenches, and as you can see, the Ukrainians are trying to bypass this area. Also, we got another video confirmation of destroyed Kazakh. The Ukrainians were trying to move as close as possible, to get as close as possible infantry to the combat line, but as a result of anti-tank missile, that light armored vehicle was destroyed. Also, we have some coordinates and some geolocated videos from the eastern of Robotyne flank, from the eastern flank of Bradley Square. The Russians showed us the video how they were bombing and attacking the Ukrainian positions among the forest line, which confirms the recent progress of the Ukrainians in this direction as well. We also got the video from the Ukrainian side how they were bombing and attacking the Russian trenches. The 46th Air Mobile Brigade was attacking the Russian positions along the trenches that were heading in direction of Verbovo, which also confirm Russian positions on this bridgehead. So as I understand, during this day the Ukrainians will continue developing their positions in the fields between Rabotino, Novopokropovka and Verbovo with one purpose: to secure the area and to allow the Ukrainian forces to start redeployment of their armored vehicles to the south. I'll remind you that a few days ago we got a very interesting video of a very significant reinforcement that were reinforcements that were heading to the south, and now the Ukrainian infantry have one goal: to secure the area and to allow the Ukrainian commanders to involve these significant reinforcements in the battle. The Russians will continue using the tactics of the scorched earth, trying to destroy everything among the fields. So as we understand, the final battle, the general battle of Rabotino, continues, and probably this battle is going to take more days. Some Russian sources claims that the Ukrainians had significant losses and that the mobilization and reserves they have is not enough to replace the losses among their forces. The Ukrainians try to control the supply roads and try to have successful artillery duels. As a result of another artillery duel in this area, the Ukrainians managed to discover and destroy the Russian Stab B howitzer. On this video we see how the Russians hide the Stab B howitzer in the forest line, and as a result of artillery strike, that Stab B howitzer was destroyed. When talking about Kherson area, the Russians continue bombing and attacking the Ukrainians along the Dnipro River with the FPV drones, for example, and there was another Lancet strike. As a result of that strike, the Russians managed to discover the Ukrainian artillery position among the forest lines in the vicinity of Zelionivka, and as a result of a strike, artillery system was destroyed. Furthermore, today we got a very interesting update from Zhytomyr area. According to the Ukrainian sources, two MiG-29 were destroyed as a result of some accident in the sky. And furthermore, the sources are saying that one of the pilots who was in MiG-29 was a pilot, according to United States plans, was in the list for F-16. So probably this is very heavy losses for the Ukrainians to lose two MiG-29 and to lose a pilot who was planned to be sent the pilot for F-16s. When talking about other front lines, we haven't received almost nothing from the Velika Novoselov-Kremivka tactical bridgehead. The only interesting video we got is that the forces at the sides, either the Russians and the Ukrainians, continue their regrouping, continue evacuation programs process. The Ukrainians were trying to evacuate their armored vehicle from the fields in the vicinity of Urozhaina, but the Russians discovered, and as a result of artillery strike, probably with Krasnopol, the Ukrainians' engineering vehicle was destroyed, and the Ukrainians couldn't evacuate another armored vehicle from this area. When talking about Klishchevka Bakhmut, we received just one confirmation, or probably detalization of the clashes that took place during the previous days during the Ukrainian offensive operation in the direction of Andreevka. The Russians were bombing and attacking the Ukrainian armored vehicles in the south part of that settlement. When talking about Liman, we got the video how the Russians were bombing, were continued doing counter-artillery duels, and as a result of another artillery duel, the Russians managed to discover and to destroy Ukrainian Stab B howitzer that Ukrainians were hidden. They were trying to hide in the forests in the vicinity of Liman and Tarskoye salient. When talking about Kharkiv, the sources are saying that Ukrainians have redeployed their 13th Jaeger Brigade in this area, trying to reinforce the Russian positions. I'll remind you that 13th Jaeger Brigade is the brigade from the Strategical Reserve from the 10th Military Corps. It's the last brigade from Strategical Reserves that we haven't seen on the combat line yet. And according to that piece of information, the Ukrainians have redeployed these forces to the Kupiansk front line, which confirms that something is going to happen in this area, because recently the Ukrainians have redeployed significant number of reserves and brigades from 10th and 9th Military Corps. We expect the activation of clashes in this area, and not even just in Kupiansk front line, but probably the Russians have some plan regarding Kharkiv. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.